Good evening. I'm going to invite and welcome you to the October 13th meeting of the Atwater City Council. We call the meeting to order. We're going to have an invocation by Jonathan Miller, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance by Councilman Ambrose. If you'll please stand.
Let's pray. Thank you for this day, Lord. Thank you for everything you've done, Lord. Thank you for everything you've given us, Lord, as we truly don't deserve it. Thank you for the city council members we have, Lord. Thank you for the firefighters we have, Lord, the police officers. Thank you for everything, Lord. Lord, I just come and I ask you, Lord, tonight to just bless this meeting, just bless the decisions that are made, help them just to honor and glorify you, and help us just to love you more, Lord, and just to be more like you after it's all over, Lord. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Can we have the roll call, please?
Ambrose?
Here.
Kale?
Here.
Raymond?
Here.
Rochester?
Here.
Nelson?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Do we have any subsequent need items?
Mayor, there are no subsequent need items.
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda as posted?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Kale. Rochester?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Kale?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Our first item tonight is ceremonial matters, and it's a very great occasion for us today. We are swearing in 2 new police officers, and the city clerk, Corey Billings, is going to administer the ceremonial oath of office. They've already been sworn in as officers, but this is the public thing here. So, Corey?
Officers, join us, please. Chief. Right, you'll raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that you will bear true faith and allegiance to the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of California, that you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties upon which you're about to enter? Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Chief, I'm going to turn that over to you.
So it's always exciting to swear in a new officer. It's doubly exciting to swear in too. Miguel Lozano's been with us for about 5 years in the Public Works Department, so we knew Miguel already, so we were looking forward to having him slide over and work with us. Cody May's been a police officer for about 3.5, 4 years. He was in the military before that, and so we're really excited to have him on board as well. It's always nice to get somebody with some experience that can come in and help out right away. So their wives are going to pin their badges, and then we'll let them say a few words.
Hello, like Chief said, my name is Cody May. I've been an officer at Los Banos Police Department for 3.5, 4 years, prior military. I want to thank you guys personally for welcoming me into your town and to this department. It'll be an honor to work with you guys, and I look forward to everything that comes about. So thank you.
Miguel Lozano. I've been a mechanic with the city about a little bit of over 4 years or so. I'm glad to be here as an officer now. Thank the Lord for helping me get here. And I thank you guys for receiving me. Thank you.
Okay, are we doing pictures? Are we taking a break for pictures here? Yeah, we're not taking a recess, but the department photo and all that stuff. We'll move out of the way so we don't photobomb it. Go on up there, everybody. Whose family go for it? All right. It's always a good thing to have at a council meeting. We're gonna move on to the consent calendar.
Background information has been provided on all matters listed under the consent calendar, and these items are considered to be routine. All items under the consent calendar are normally approved by one motion. If a council member requests separate discussion on any item, that item will be removed from the consent calendar for separate action.
Is there any public comment regarding the consent calendar? Seeing nobody come forward, I'm now closing public comment. Are there any items on the consent calendar the council would like to remove for separate discussion and possible action?
So moved.
Okay, got a motion
Second.
and a second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Ambrose. Kale?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Raymond?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, so that moves us to reports and presentations from staff. Be item 10. Receiving and accepting the City of Atwater's annual financial report and single audit report for the year ended June 30th, 2024, an independent accountant's report on agreed upon procedures applied to appropriations limit schedule for the year ended June 30th, 2025. Finance Director Nicholas, you can present your staff report, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council, city staff, and Atwater community. My name is Anna Nicholas, your finance director for the City of Atwater. I'm very pleased to bring this item forward for you this evening. I'm going to do a brief introduction of the item and then turn over the mic time to Mr. Ahmed Badawi of Badawi and Associates, who led our audit this year for fiscal year 24. Prior to tonight's audit and finance committee meeting prior to tonight's city council meeting, we held audit and finance committee meetings, so this information could be presented to the committee. Included in the agenda packet is the full annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2024, along with two other reports, the single audit report for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024, and the independent auditor's report on agreed upon procedures applied to appropriations limit schedule for the year ended June 30th, 2025. The focus of the presentation tonight will be on the first item listed, which is the main report, which is the annual financial report that we informally refer to as the audit. While this is an annual routine item, it merits considerable attention, not only due to the complexity and volume of work invested both by the city and the auditing firm side, but for the purpose that this report exists, and that is to provide accurate financial data and supplementary information with an assurance of conformance to generally accepted accounting principles to all stakeholders of the City of Atwater. For readers of the report, some important items of the annual financial report that should not be overlooked are the independent auditor's report, which can be located on page 1, the letter of transmittal from the finance director and city manager, which can be located on Roman numeral page 5, and a required and useful component of the annual financial report is the management discussion and analysis, or the MD&A, which accompanies the financial data of the report, and that can be located on page 5. Prior to turning this over to Mr. Badawi, I want to express my sincere appreciation to the City of Atwater's finance team. And we happen to have two of them in the audience with us. We have Randeep and Joseph. Our entire finance team contributes to the success of getting this report done, both directly and indirectly. And it's a heavy lift every year. So a lot of kudos to them, and I want to send a special shout out to Jared Mua, who is our accountant too, who does a lot of the work with the Badawi staff on getting the information that's needed for the success of completing this report. And then second, I want to express sincere appreciation for the professional expertise of Mr. Badawi's team at Badawi and Associates, and a special mention to the senior auditor, Fatima Salman, who works with us and who had a lot of patience with us. I'll turn it over to Mr. Badawi now.
Welcome.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening. I'm Ahmed Badawi. I was the audit partner on the City of Atwater audit for fiscal year 2024. And today I'll present to you the results of that audit. I'm having an issue with the clicker here.
Might have to turn it back on.
Ah, good idea. All right. So I'll let you know what I'm going to cover today. I will give you a brief overview of our firm and the engagement team, the deliverables and the scope of our audit, a brief overview of our audit methodology, some of the risks that we identified in our audit, also provide you the summary of our audit opinion and some of the numbers in your financial statements, provide you some of the required communications as your independent auditor, a summary of the new accounting standards coming your way, and then see if you have any questions for me. I'm going to get started here with our firm. This is just really one slide on our firm by the numbers. We have about 25 years of experience. We are a very specialized firm. We only work with municipal governments. We audit about 65 government clients. Out of those, about 44 cities that we audit in California. We have about 30 employees, and so far, touch on wood, we have 0 claims, 0 disciplinary actions against the firm. As far as our engagement team, this was the composition of our engagement team. I was the engagement partner, person ultimately responsible for the audit. We also have a quality control reviewer. This person is in the background. Their role is to review our work, making sure that we adhere to professional standards, and also provide a second review of the financial statements. We had an IT specialist that assists us in understanding the controls embedded in the city's computer system. And then we had a senior and 2 professional staff assigned to the audit. In terms of our deliverables, we were mainly engaged to provide an opinion on the city's financial statements. We also conducted a compliance audit of the federal grant expenditures, we refer to as a single audit, the agreed upon procedures on the GAN limit or the appropriation limit. We also prepare a bunch of reports for the State Controller's Office, the annual financial transaction reports for the city, for the Public Financing Authority, and also for the Fire Protection District. In addition to that, we also prepared the street report. These are electronic submissions on the state website that we perform throughout the year. And then finally, communication with the governing body, which is what I'm doing today, and also we issue a letter summarizing that communication. Brief overview of our audit methodology. So the audit is really done in different phases throughout the year. It starts early in the year with the planning phase. This normally involves just the partner and the manager from the audit firm side and management from the city side. Really trying to gather information about major events, transactions, change in personnel and accounting system, just to assist us with planning the audit. Then the second phase is our risk assessment phase. This phase involves interviewing city staff, documenting the processes and the controls that are in place, and then perform risk assessment to determine the extent of auditing and sampling that we will be doing in the next phase based on our risk assessment. The third phase is a year-end phase, and this is when we come in and actually validate the account balances, obtain evidence and supporting documentation for each of the account balances. And then the last phase is the reporting phase, where we draft the financial statements, management draft the management discussion and analysis, and then we finalize and issue those reports. As far as areas of primary audit risk, so we have identified a few risks in the audit. I always like to qualify before I start going through the list that we identified that any audit have some risks. There are no risk-free audits. It's just by nature there are some risks that are just unavoidable. So the first one is the risk of management override of controls. And the way we see it is management is the one responsible for designing and implementing internal control. They're responsible for monitoring those controls. And they are oftentimes in a position to override them. So we design our audit procedures to reduce that risk to an acceptable level. So these are some of the procedures that we perform. We make sure that we assign more experienced personnel to more complex areas of the audit, that we incorporate an element of unpredictability in our audit process, that we evaluate management application of accounting standards for consistency. We test entries prepared by management. We review estimates prepared by management. We evaluate any unusual transactions for the business rationale behind them. And then also we evaluate our inquiries regarding fraud and related parties. Another area of risk is revenue and receivable. So this is an area that auditing standards require us to consider it to be an area of a higher risk. The assumption is everyone likes to have more revenues and less expenses. So the assumption is that the motivation is always there to try to inflate revenues. We rely heavily on confirmations from third parties. So we send confirmations to the county, to the state, to granting agencies, to other major revenue payers, and we ask them to confirm the amount paid to the city, and we reconcile those amounts to the city's accounting records and make sure that they are reconciled. We also perform testing of utility billing. We do a ratio analysis and identify anomalies just to get comfortable with revenues as well. And then finally, the last area of risk is estimates, accounting estimates. And this is an area of risk just due to the degree of uncertainties in some of these numbers. Wanted to highlight to you the numbers that are estimated in your financials. The fair value of city's investment is an estimated number. The useful life of capital assets, like how long vehicles and equipment would live, is also an accounting estimate. And then pension and OPEB are two accounting estimates that involves actuarial assumptions as well. Just wanted to bring that to your attention. Then I'm going to cover the audit report and some of the numbers in the financial statements. As far as our auditor's report, it does state standards that we followed, and those are the generally accepted auditing standard and also government auditing standard. So they're usually applied one on top of the other. So the generally accepted auditing standards, everyone has to follow. In addition to that, there are additional requirements for government auditing standards. So we follow both standards at the same time. We have issued an unmodified opinion. And an unmodified opinion means that we believe that the financial statements are fairly stated, that all accounting policies have been consistently applied, that all estimates are reasonable, and that all disclosure are properly reflected in the financial statements. So in simple term, an unmodified opinion means it's a clean opinion, that we agree with management about those numbers. Wanted to summarize for you some of the numbers in your financial statements. On this slide here is a summary of the city's assets over the last 3 years. And as you probably can see, there aren't a whole lot of changes in the numbers. They're fairly consistent over the last 3 years, just some small increases that are usually expected year over year. The two largest assets are cash and investments and capital assets, and that's very consistent with most cities that we audit. Those are usually the two largest assets. But otherwise, it's an uneventful year as far as numbers and fluctuations. The same was the liabilities on this slide, this summary of the city's liabilities over the last 3 years. The largest liability is the long-term debt. Those are the bonds and loans and the long-term obligations. And nothing here other than the scheduled repayments. You can see the reduction. And then all the other liabilities are fairly consistent year over year. On this slide here is the city's net position or equity, which is really the assets minus the liabilities. The equity is divided into 3 categories: net investment in capital assets, which is usually the largest category, but is also the category that is not in a spendable form. This is how much the city invested in streets and roads and buildings, and it would not become spendable unless the city actually liquidate all those assets, which is not a very likely scenario, obviously. So this 66 million is unlikely to ever become spendable. Then you have the restricted amounts, and those have outside legal restriction on them, so they can be unspent grant proceeds, gas tax money, bond money, those types of funds that have outside legal restrictions on them. And then finally, the unrestricted amount is the amount that is under the council control that have no legal restriction. This is really looking at the overall city. So I'm sure that 30 million already been reserved and designated for many purposes, but this is really just looking at the overall city and the outside legal restriction on this area. On this slide here, we compare what we call the net cost of service to tax revenues. So the net cost of service is the cost of running all city departments minus any revenues that those departments bring in on their own. So any grants, any fees to users, and so on. The idea is to see whether tax revenues are sufficient to cover that net cost of service or not. You can see that over the last 3 years, tax revenues have been sufficient to cover the cost of service. In 2023, the net cost of service significantly declined. That's usually because there was a big grant that reduced the cost, basically offset the cost, ARPA grant. And then also pension expense in 2023 was a negative amount, so that also reduced the net cost of service. And then in 2024, it's back to normal again. If we were to just focus on the general fund, obviously we look at the general fund as the measurement of the city's liquidity, because this is where most of unrestricted resources reside. So we look at the unrestricted fund balance in the general fund, and we compare that to annual expenditures. The idea is to see, in the very unlikely scenario that all revenue sources stop coming in, how long can the city continue to pay bills using its existing fund balance? Obviously, you can see here, this is a very healthy fund balance. The city have about 12 months worth of expenditures in its fund balance. It's a full year. So that's definitely a healthy fund balance, above the average that we see with some of our city clients. Not the highest, but above the average. So it's a good place to be as far as the general fund is concerned. This slide here is focusing on pension, and I mentioned that pension is an estimated number, and one of the most significant assumptions in estimating this number is the discount rate. So I wanted to show you what your liability would look like if that discount rate is increased or decreased by 1%. Currently, it's at 6.9%. That is set by CalPERS, and that's the current rate. You can see that the liability will probably fluctuate to 42 million if that discount rate is decreased by 1%, and on the other side, it will go down to 19 million if that discount rate is increased by 1%. Increase in discount rate is probably not a very likely scenario, just giving what we hear from CalPERS. That 18 million is probably not a very likely scenario. Similar to pension, also OPEB is an estimated number, and discount rate is a significant assumption in estimating this number, although the impact is not as significant because the OPEB plan is not as fully funded as the pension plan usually are. But that gives you an idea what your liability would look like if that discount rate changes by 1%. The next part of my presentation is the required communications as your independent auditor. On this slide here, I'll summarize to you the responsibility of the audit firm versus management responsibility. We are mostly responsible to provide an opinion on the city's financial statements, whether they're fairly stated in all material respects or not. To evaluate internal control over financial reporting, including the tone at the top, making sure that management is sending the right message to the rest of the organization about the importance of controls, about the consequences of committing fraud, responding to audit findings, coming up with corrective actions, so on. We're responsible to evaluate compliance with laws and regulations, to ensure the city's financials are clear and transparent, and to communicate with the governing body. Management have a lot of responsibilities in this process. Management is responsible to take responsibility for the financial statements. Even though you hire our firm to certify the numbers, that does not relieve management from its responsibility. Our audit only provides reasonable assurance, not absolute assurance about the accuracy of the numbers, and it does not relieve management from its responsibility. Management is responsible to establish an internal control over financial reporting, make all financial records available to us during the audit process, to establish internal control that will prevent and detect fraud, inform us of all known and suspected fraud, comply with laws and regulations, and then take corrective action on audit findings. As far as independence, it is solely our responsibility to maintain our independence. We follow the California Board of Accountancy rules and the AICPA rules regarding independence. We also evaluate any additional service that we offer the city and to see if it impair our independence. We prepare the financial statements on behalf of the city, and this is a service that would impair independence if no safeguards are put in place. Safeguards that we put in place is having an independent person outside of the audit who review those financial statements to make sure that we have a second reviewer. We also identify an individual on the city side who have suitable skill, knowledge, and experience to oversee our service, and obviously in this case is Anna, and that allow us to maintain our independence during this process. As far as timing of the audit was not performed within the time frame communicated to the city or agreed to with the city. I mean, today is October 2025, and we are presenting the 2024 audit. In a few weeks, I'll start presenting to my other clients the 2025 audit. So the city is almost a year behind, a little over a year behind. I mean, we understand that there were turnover and staffing changes and so on, but again, the financial information, the older it is, the less valuable it is. And I think financial information that is 18 months old is not really as relevant today, since the numbers probably changed quite a bit. So ideally, we would like to see the audit done more timely. Most audits are usually completed by the end of the calendar year. So for June 30, 2025, the ideal is to finish and issue the reports by December 2025. We're going to be working towards this goal, but that's really the ideal timing for the audit. As far as significant accounting policies, the city had one accounting standard that was implemented during fiscal year 2024, and the financial statements does reflect that new standard. In terms of difficulties encountered, I'm pleased to say that we encountered no difficulties. Management's always been responsive, and we had no issues working with finance and finance staff throughout the process. As far as significant audit adjustments, there were some adjustments and reclassifying entries, and those are usually the result of the audit discovering some errors in the accounting records and then proposing adjustments or corrections to management. Finally, the deficiencies in internal controls. So the good news is that we had no material weaknesses in internal controls, and material weaknesses are the most severe. We did have a few significant deficiencies identified. The first one is obviously the timing and audit preparedness, that the city was not ready to undergo the audit on time, and it needed more time to get ready, and it caused obviously the audit being delayed. Also the roll forward schedule of long-term debt. This is really, we're looking for the city to summarize for us audit information. When we say making financial records available to us, it is the city's responsibility to summarize to us and say, here's what happened during the year, not just give us all the files and we go figure it out. So with long-term debt, we wanted some more input from the city to tell us, okay, here's what happened during the year, here are new debts that we issued, here's what we paid off, here's our ending numbers. And then finally, we also had a compliance audit done on the federal grants. And when federal funds are used to hire contractors, the city is required to check to make sure that those contractors or vendors are not suspended or debarred from doing work with the federal government. This process can be done by either going on a certain website, sams.gov, and checking that contractor to see if they are listed. Also, obtaining self-certification from the contractor can meet that requirement. The city did not perform those procedures when they hired those contractors. Then this is just a summary of the new accounting standards that will be coming in next year, 2025, and also in 2026. I'm not going to bother you with the detail of those standards. We normally meet with management after each phase of the audit. We go through those standards in detail and how they're going to impact the city. We also host a training seminar every year where management, of course, is invited. And we also go into a lot of depths about those standards and how the city can prepare for them. With that, I want to say thank you for the opportunity. That concludes my presentation, and I'm more than happy to answer your questions.
Well, thank you very much for that report. Does council have any questions? Ryan?
So going through the single audit, we know there were 3 significant deficiencies. Can you briefly describe in plain language so everybody, including the council, can understand where and which departments are responsible for those, so that way we can correct that and move forward?
Sure. So the first 2 is obviously finance. That would be the timing of the audit and the audit preparedness. When I say finance, finance is the department responsible in front of us. I mean, of course, some other departments in the city can cause the audit to be delayed if they're not providing their invoices on time, if they're not getting their information to finance on time. But obviously we look at finance as the department who's going to eventually provide us that information. So I would say the responsibility will ultimately lies with them. As far as for the first two, for the timing of the audit and the roll forward schedule. For the suspension and debarment, again, this will depend on the department who is basically hiring the contractor. I do not recall which department was the one involved, but for example, if it's a contract for Public Works, then obviously we would expect Public Works would be the one doing that suspension and debarment, and so on. I don't recall though which department.
Well, would a 90-day update from those departments help get this corrected?
Sure. So this you cannot go back and correct it, but you can probably maybe put a policy in place that ensure that if you're going to use federal funds, that then there needs to be a process to check those contractors, making sure that they're not suspended.
Okay.
I can add some context to that. So the departments that were typically involved is Public Works and Engineering. Those departments have already been informed of the significant deficiency, and a process has been put in place so that they save, they go onto sam.gov already, but they hadn't been saving the information. So they have been verifying, but they didn't actually save the documentation. So they now are educated that they need to save that, as that will be saved for future audit inquiries. In addition, I know our city clerk is working with legal on making sure we have a certification in the contractor packet where they attest to that, and that satisfies the requirement of the it's 2 CFR, is it?
Yeah,
Section
the
2
CFR.
CFR, yeah. So CFR, so it satisfies that requirement. So ideally, we're going to be doing both, but we're going to make sure that the certification is included as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
I think mine is more of a comment and a question for the city manager. I know that this has been a point of contention for me, but I go back to the ordinance for Measure B, and the ordinance specifies that there will be an audit, an independent audit that's conducted, and states that we will see how the revenues were utilized. And I looked through the report, and I'm sure that that's probably our responsibility to provide to the auditor so that the auditor can verify that was done. And I'm not seeing that in this report unless I missed it. Did I miss that?
So the audit shows two major funds that were reviewed, and one of them is the general fund, the other one is the Measure B fund. So that was part of the audit.
So if you're asking if we issued a standalone report on the Measure B, we have not.
Right.
But when a fund is reported as a major fund in the city report, that means that we have audited that fund independently, like we had a separate materiality threshold set up for that fund, that we scoped transactions specifically for that fund, and that we're giving a specific opinion on that fund. Like when you read our audit opinion, it says we have audited the city's governmental activities, business type activities, each major fund, and the aggregate remaining fund. So if Measure B is a major fund, then we're giving an opinion saying we have audited that fund. We
Okay,
cannot
so-
give you a standalone report on that fund.
Okay. So do we feel like that ordinance is, that we're covered under what the ordinance states?
Yeah, the ordinance basically says that it'll be independently audited. I'm not, I don't have the language right in front of me, but I think that's essentially what it says. And to the extent, and I believe it's a major fund that is audited, so it has a robust independent audit that was part of this overall city audit. So I do believe that is clearly what's covered.
I think you may, and again, I'll have to review the language, but you may run into something in the future. Major funds change year over year, depending on which funds are big, which funds are small. So if, for example, if Measure B becomes non-major in the future, it may not be audited at that same level or that same scope. One of the things that the city can do is to choose to keep Measure B fund as major fund every year. That way it doesn't change with the numbers and it gets audited every year. So that can be something that the city can decide to do.
And to that, the district attorney just ruled on that and said the Measure B funds are being spent accordingly. And so as long as we keep the numbers and accounting going forward, everything's working in towards forward progress on that. But I do have another question, if I can. And since we're in strong compliance right now, staff, are you guys exploring a proactive financial tool so that way like early debt structuring or grant stacking can be placed to help put us in a better financial position? Yeah, everything, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, so we have, and included in this, is we have met our debt service ratio that is required. But in order for us to continue to meet that, we need to make sure that we do timely rate studies. And this is just on the enterprise fund, specifically for water sewer. So that is something that's underway to make a determination on if a rate study needs to come forward for future consideration from City Council. So that's one aspect, so that we can meet our current debt. And the other thing, when it comes to debt, one of the most important critical factors is timely audits. This information is looked at from not only our current debt providers, but future. If depending on the planning of City Council and what perhaps they want to go build in the future, we need to make sure that things that may seem so simple, but it's really not, you've got to get the audit done on time. And that's one of your biggest tools into making sure that we can refinance or acquire future debt at a much more favorable rate. So it's a simple thing that's within our control that we need to make sure we do. And in terms of non-enterprise, for example, the general fund, as mentioned, is very healthy right now. So one of the things that we talked about at strategic planning is perhaps one-time use of that general fund. Do we want to pay down some of our pension liability? Are there other things that we want to look at that could put us in a more favorable position as well, should we go to acquire future debt?
Mr. City Manager, work with the Finance Director. Let's set something up.
Yeah, I think everything that's been said is accurate. And one of the things that we did along that line of thinking of paying down existing debt now is the fire engine that we made an extra payment on to finish, and we recouped some of the interest that would have been paid. Thank you.
No other questions? Are there any public comments on this item? Thank you.
Quick question on with regards to Measure B. I heard that it was kind of all-inclusive into the this audit. Can it be broke out separately for the Oversight Committee? Is basically what I'm asking. We've heard about the audit for Measure B supposed to be done and it hadn't. So is there any way that that can be broke out separately for Oversight Committee?
Anna?
I can answer that question. So I have Measure B open right here, and it says under 3.45.140, this is about the Citizens Oversight Committee. Under letter C, it says, in the middle of there, it says, committee members may also review the annual financial or performance audits performed by an independent auditor. So the audit was performed by an independent auditor, and that can be reviewed by the committee members. And at the bottom of the ordinance, there's section 3.45.150. And there it says, the amount generated by this special purpose revenue source and how it was used shall be included in the annual audit of the city's financial operations by an independent certified public accountant. So that's exactly what we did, was we included how it was used and the amount that was generated. We included all of that in the annual audit.
So exactly that. It is presented as a major fund, as Ahmed mentioned. So as the Measure B committee, they are a stakeholder. They'll have this information that's on the city's website. I'll be happy to bring it to their attention at our next quarterly meeting and show them that it is presented as a major fund. So you can see it's labeled Public Safety Transaction and Use Special Tax Revenue. It shows your revenues and expenditures. They're line items based on categories of expenditures. And so to that point, as Ahmed said, is what we want to do is make sure, because Measure B may not always qualify as a major fund, but we need to put a measure in place within the city so that each time we have an annual audit, we treat it as a major fund, so it'll have its own place on the financials.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. Okay, any further?
Council, Mayor, staff, good evening. I'm just curious what the total cost of the audit was, and if we are able to next year do the audit in a more timely manner, is it cheaper from like an hour's billing perspective? Thank you.
It actually wouldn't go down. It costs about $35,000 a year for the audit, and that includes the single audit. In addition to, there's required reports that are done by the auditing firm for the State Controller's Office.
Okay, any other public comment? Seeing nobody else come forward, I'm going to close public comment. Anybody like to make a motion?
Mayor, can I just make one more comment before we
Sure.
go for making a motion? I just want to point out that something that I noticed in the report also is that our sewer expenditures are higher than the revenue that we're taking in. And so that just takes me back to our discussions about Castle, and just want to bring it to the other council members' attention that we continue to spend more than we're bringing in. And so I know the county has not really been answering our requests to increase the amount that they're paying. So just want to bring that to the council's attention too.
All right, thank you.
It's what Councilmember Rochester is saying is it's about 1.5 times what we're bringing in right now. And so, I mean, if we don't tighten it up within the next 12 to 18 months, then the margin's going to be more than, we're going to be paying more than what we bring in.
So in briefings with our Public Works Director, we have some one-time expenses that are making that number look a lot bigger. And we can come back with some more detail on that, but I'm sure that we're not just overspending like that every year. This would be part of some one-time expenses. I'm happy to come back with more information.
Okay.
I'd like to see those one-time expenses are really good.
Ready? Any other comments? Motion?
Motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Raymond, second by Ambrose. Raymond?
Yes.
Ambrose?
Yes.
Rochester?
Yes.
Kale?
Yes.
Nelson?
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right. Thank you for your presentation tonight. Have a safe trip home in the rain. All right, tonight is the evening of reports. First, we're going to hear the Fire Department quarterly update by Battalion Chief Randall.
Mr. Mayor, council, staff, and community members. I will be providing you the quarterly update from July through September for the fire department. Year-to-date calls for the city of Atwater are 3,461. Of that, 2,016 from Station 41, 1,327 out of Station 42, and then 118 county responses into the first due of the city. The Lucas device has been utilized 23 times since we purchased it this year, and it's had 4 people walk out of the hospital. From the fire marshal's office, Knox box approvals for new Knox boxes are at 14. Multifamily complex inspections, 226 per SB 1205. School inspections are at 18 per SB 1205. Fireworks displays at 1. Business inspections for current businesses, 98, and then 17 new inspections. The total revenue generated from the fire marshal's office this quarter was $16,475. Personnel report, there are currently 1 fire apparatus engineer and 1 firefighter 2 position vacant. When the fire apparatus engineer list becomes available, we will review for the candidates and fill that position. I have tentatively accepted a transfer from a firefighter 2 out of Madera County, whose date will be filled in the coming month. Public education and engagements. We participated in the 4th of July parade, fire truck and equipment education day at Bellevue summer school program, the Castle Vista Safety Services education for seniors, conducted CPR training for city employees, participated in the open cockpit day at Castle Air Museum, attended the Atwater High football first responder night and the Buhat Colony first responder football night, had 1 ride along from a citizen interested in pursuing a fire service career. Again, at the next open cockpit day at Castle, 9/11 National Day of Remembrance, and had a station tour of Mitchell Senior's photography class. Accomplishments and training. We completed the emergency operations plan and EOC annex. The shared mechanic with the county agreement was completed, and that person was hired. Partnered with Streamline to add weed abatement module for 2026. An agreement with Brycer to add fire system compliance module to the inspection system application with Streamline was done. Our upcoming projects are to present a new CAL FIRE contract, continue with the ladder truck replacement purchase process, have the ISO review completed, continue with miscellaneous purchasing of equipment for replacement, close out the Office of the State Fire Marshal life safety inspections of the fire stations, and finish the RPF for weed abatement. Any questions I can answer for you?
Council have any questions?
I just have one. I noted that out of the 226 apartment complex inspections, that 222 were compliant. So I'm wondering what happens with the 4 that were found non-compliant.
The City Fire Marshal, Chief Carvalho.
Yes, good evening. So since then, we are down only 2 of the apartments are non-compliance. So what happens is when we go out and do our inspections, the engine crew goes out there, they do the first and second inspection. I go out there when they don't pass, do the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and those 2 that have not passed have been turned over to code enforcement to assist with the fire marshal.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Does anybody in the public like to comment on this presentation? Okay, I see nobody come forward. We'll close public comment on that. Chief, thank you for your report. You moved right through it. Appreciate that. Next, we go to item 12, which is the Police Department Quarterly Update with Chief McEachin.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Good evening, public. I'll try to keep mine brief as well. Our department statistics for the 3 months in this quarter, 10,313 total incidents. Of those, 6,118 were calls for service. There were 761 traffic stops. 989 cases were generated. 77 traffic collisions. We made 258 arrests. 629 citations were written, and that includes parking and moving violations. 247 animal control calls. Our accomplishments for this quarter, the Axon interview room servers were installed. The servers were on back order, so even though the camera system was online, you couldn't view them from other offices in the building. The servers are in now, and so the detectives can actually watch an interview as it's being conducted from their office rather than the monitor room. The Department of Justice came and did a CLETS audit with our dispatch supervisor She did an excellent job compiling all the information that they wanted, and in my experience, it usually goes back and forth a few times until we're in compliance. We submitted everything, and we were found to be in compliance the first time. So, it was, and that was the first time that she had done an audit like this. So, I commend her for that. We also had our post-annual audit. Post comes out and checks our training records to make sure we're in compliance with the biannual training requirements. And they also check background investigations on all new officers and dispatchers. And we were found to be in compliance with that as well. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you have to fix some things for them and then they come back, or they'll check it online. But in this case, he was satisfied when he left with the first go-around. As far as our staffing, the traffic officer is in place. His training is ongoing. We've had some issues with our motorcycle. It was one thing after another. We're breaking down on it. It's an older bike. So we had 2 electric bikes that were received on a grant a few years ago. So he's actually transitioned to one of those, and he says that it's really a good bike for him to ride. And so we're going to continue his training on that bike instead. The records supervisor position was filled. She's doing an outstanding job. I commend the records clerks for keeping things afloat while that position was vacant, but she's in there now, and we're fully staffed at records, so they're getting done the things that they need to do. Public Records Act requests take a lot of time, so it's really nice to have that position filled so that she can handle those. We still have 1 officer vacancy, even with the 2 sworn in today. We lost one a few weeks ago. He was commuting about an hour and a half each way to work and back, so he got a job at an agency closer to home. We are recruiting and working on filling that position now. We hired a dispatcher. She was a lateral, and she had a lot of experience, and that's really helped out. She's just learning our records management system, but she's doing really well, and she should be solo pretty soon. We're having a little more difficulty filling the other one. We have some more interviews coming up shortly, and hopefully we'll find a good candidate out of that. The budget, the 2 part-time community service officer positions were approved. As soon as we are able to get these other positions, the recruitment taken care of, then we're going to open those up and start working on filling those 2 part-time community service officer positions. Our upcoming projects, we're going to continue the reorganization of the police facility. We're getting pretty close to having everybody move to where they need to be. The dispatch center furniture is going to be installed next week, and then once that's in, AT&T and Motorola can come and move all the equipment from the current position to the new room, and we're really looking forward to that. Vehicles are in production. The 4 vehicles that we're leasing through Enterprise, I get weekly updates on their status. They're in production now, so they're actually building the cars. So the estimated time of arrival is April. Takes quite a while to build them, I guess. So we're looking at another 6 months probably. I'm optimistic that they'll be here before that, but that's the target date. We're looking to continue to add additional license plate reader cameras. I know I've brought this up a few times. We've met with Flock a few times. It was an assembly bill that came up that put some things in question, and we weren't really sure how that was going to shake out, whether, well, I won't get into it, but there's some language that we weren't really sure whether that was going to prevent us from sharing data with the company that provides it to us or not. That's all been straightened out. So I didn't want to move forward and buy cameras that we couldn't use, so we kind of waited on that. So now that that's done, we're going to try to move forward with that and get some more areas of the city covered. The countywide radio infrastructure upgrade, the undersheriff, I spoke with him a few weeks ago about this. Some of the towers are currently being constructed. They're working on an MOU so that they can put that in place with each agency. They're going to start with UC Merced. They're going to jump onto the system first. Once they're up and running and things look like they're a go, then we're going to continue forward. He estimated second quarter of next year that we should have that up. You got a question?
Yes, now you have a question. Go ahead.
Yes, Chief. So the previous chief, he had been working with the undersheriff previously, and they were getting ready to move all the antennas and everything for the radios, and then we had gone to a different system. So with what you're working on now, does that put us on the same setup as the SO with what they're going to now?
Yes, our mobiles and our portables, I talked with the undersheriff and I actually had him look at one of our mobile radios one day, and he says yes, that all of that should be able to be on the system, no problem. It's they're all P25 compliant, which is what the requirement is, so we should be good to go on that.
Perfect, thank you.
And that was the end of my report, so is there any other questions?
Any other questions? I had a question since you mentioned parking tickets. What's, maybe you want to explain a little bit to the public about the 20 feet, parking 20 feet from the corners of intersections? I know a lot of people apparently don't know that's a law now.
Yeah, like a lot of laws, when they pass it, people don't somehow find out about it. They don't know that it exists. I actually talked with our public works director about this a few weeks ago, and they're going to start painting the curbs red in those areas so that it's obvious to everybody. So even the people that don't know it's a law, they'll know then, hopefully, and if not, then they will be cited. It is something that can be cited now, so we can cite it. The curbs don't have to be red, but they really realistically should be, just so that people do know that they can't park there.
And I appreciate you working with Juniper School on their parking issues, especially after school, early release times and whatnot. But it'd be good if a traffic officer was out there at release times. And a lot of people, it's unfortunate. You try to give them the carrot and everything, red curbs and whatnot, but sometimes they need a ticket.
Yeah, he has been in the mornings and the afternoons. He goes out. We have so many schools, he's got to kind of pick and choose where he's at. But he does try to be around the schools at drop off and pick up time.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, is there any public comment on this? Seeing nobody come forward, I'll close public comment on that. Moving on to Code Enforcement Annual Update with our Code Enforcement Manager, Daniel Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to just update you what we've had going on for the last year. When I was asked to present the annual update, I wanted to do more than just focus on the numbers and statistics and put out a small mission statement. The overall goal for the code enforcement is just to keep Atwater clean, keep the neighborhoods looking in order, try to remove as much blight as we can. Definitely enforce the municipal code, so I didn't want that goal to get lost in the numbers as we move forward. So the past year, code enforcement has issued 871 notices or citations, 27 parking sites, 48 cases, which most of them and the majority of them are going to be towed vehicles for miscellaneous vehicle code violations or vehicle abatement tows. We responded or took part in 3,031 incidents for the last year, ranging from code enforcement calls to parking violations, AVA enforcement, just miscellaneous calls that we handle. And since I started my code program with the city in mid 2019, we have billed $447,000 in fines for various municipal code violations. Common things we respond to. Most people think we just deal with the municipal code, but we do have a more diverse group of things that we enforce. Obviously, we cover neighborhood blight, just general garbage and trash throughout the neighborhoods. We do have a large focus right now on the unhoused encampments, and we do try to stay ahead of the abandoned vehicle program throughout the city, which involves posting the vehicles and subsequently towing them if it's the requirements are met. We do get a lot of graffiti complaints. We do get a lot of substandard housing complaints that we investigate and enforce accordingly. Also handle all the parking complaints throughout the city, as well as assist patrol whenever we're required to. It could be for traffic, it could be just for large incidents where manpower becomes an issue and we're just a force multiplier for them. We do assist the building department with enforcement of all the lack of a building permit and do the follow-up to ensure that everybody's building appropriately within the city of Atwater. And we also assist the planning department, whether it's a zoning violation or a sign violation or something that would fall into planning, but we would work closely with them. We also assist Public Works. Public Works turns over a lot of our encampments. We do assist Public Works if they need any assistance with performing their job. This year we've done a couple illegal cannabis cultivations, which would be separate than an outdoor grow. Those are not too common, but those are typically handled with a basic admin citation. But we have identified a couple indoor illegal cannabis grows. We worked with Sheriff's Department and our detectives to get search warrants and get those shut down for the city. We do assist the animal control officer as needed. We do work closely with Merced County. We get case turnovers fairly frequently from the public health department, APS, occasionally CPS. We do work with the Sheriff's Office Code Enforcement on the properties in the county that abut the city, and various housing departments. We get a fair number of complaints from the California State Cosmetology Board. Most of those have to deal with unlicensed people doing business, and then that would fall over to lack of business license. We do respond for complaints of street vendors. Not as common as it was a couple of years ago. Most of the escalated cases we get, which are more than just a random neighborhood blight issue or a parking violation, these are extended cases, and they might require obtaining a abatement warrant, working with the city legal department to obtain that abatement warrant, the service of the warrant. Those can get quite extended. And we do have a good working relationship and often work with the Railroad, Union Pacific, Caltrans, PG&E. MID is an amazing player. Again, most of these are for unhoused or homeless encampments within the city that require them to assist with the cleanup of those. So not all those would be the city's responsibility to get cleaned up, so we want to make sure we work with them to get them assisting with those. Current challenges we do have a slowly increasing unhoused population in the city of Atwater. We are starting to notice and observe more people from out of town entering the city, so we deal with that as we make contact with them. Also constantly trying to update the Atwater Municipal Code. We do get a lot of feedback from the citizens of the city where they find maybe a part of the code is lacking or some changes they would like to make, so we do like to hear their input for things or holes in the code that we might have. And obviously staffing, we are fairly busy, so that would always be a nice option. The current victories we're having in code enforcement is we recently obtained the services of Data Ticket, which is a third-party billing. So typically in the past, administrative citations would be issued, invoices would be generated for the fines, and then forwarded to the finance department. Obviously they're very busy, so this third-party billing company obviously assists with that. We feel it's going to be a great improvement. We do have a great process for abatement warrants. We've done 2 or 3 in the city, so we have a great system worked out with the city attorney and their staff, and they go pretty smoothly and are executed fairly smoothly. Part of the code enforcement part that's big, most people wouldn't know, but working with the city manager and the chief, they're always very receptive to the changes in the violations around town. They're always very receptive to any additions or amendments to the code that we might need, so it's just great working with them because it just makes everything go much easier. Just a quick before an example. This would be an extreme case of a more complicated code house. Typically, this is not your standard, somebody has a sofa or refrigerator in front of their house. But a case like this can go on for several months. This particular house was a HUD home, so you have to reach out to various arms of the government to get assistance with cleaning it up. Again, this wouldn't be something that the city would abate on its own, nor would they pay for the cleaning or abatement of the trash on the property. So cases like this can get pretty lengthy, but the picture on the right would represent the ultimate goal at the end, and I know everybody on the street was very happy. Love that. Future goals, always entertain adding a code enforcement officer. I have spoken with HR. The cost for a code enforcement officer between $98,000 and $118,000 for the position. We're always trying to update the municipal code. I do get a lot of feedback, sometimes frustration from the city, the citizens of the city, that the code doesn't cover, I guess, enforcement action that they would like. So we're always entertaining expanding the code to fit their requests. The municipal code is for the citizens. It's not for me. So when I do hear concerns with it, maybe it's lacking something or something that the community would like to see, I do encourage them to let me know or let the city know, because the municipal code is changeable, for the needs of the city. And getting the third-party data ticket billing services, there will be an increased cost recovery through the data ticket processing, so that's always good. We do a lot of man hours citing these violations, and the municipal code does have a mandate to recoup that fine amount, so this is just going to improve that. And those are the numbers annually, so if you have any questions, I'll be happy to elaborate on it.
Well, I was going to ask you about that house on Terry, and then I noticed you had it in your slides here, which I really, really appreciate. I got a lot of complaints about that house. I know it took you a long time working with the feds to get that cleaned up. And the picture that shows all the junk in the yard, I drove by there one day and was like, holy cow. But that actually looked better than it did before.
So that particular house, again, it's all public knowledge, was a HUD house, so you have to contact the government. You got to get in touch with somebody from one state, they send you to somebody from another state, send you to somebody from another state, and they have to secure a vendor from the East Coast to the West Coast to abate the house, so the process is long.
Yeah, it was bad. It's interesting, if you look on Zillow, they have the interior photos, and it's like, oh my gosh, somebody's actually living in there. That was after it was cleaned up, too.
Well, the breakdown came, so they hired a vendor to clean the house. We initially just wanted the exterior of the house cleaned. From the brush and the debris and everything in the front of the house, the vendor took it upon themselves to vacate the entire interior of the house, and hey, let's put it on the lawn. So we had to have a discussion about that. Wasn't appropriate.
Well, thank you for taking care of that. Kalisa.
I just have a quick comment. While you were speaking, I did some math, and I want to start by, again, applauding you for all of your efforts. I greatly appreciate you so much, and I appreciate you always being willing to take my call and being as proactive as you are. I know that you're extremely busy. And with that being said, I did some quick math as I sat here, just to kind of put it into perspective, is that code enforcement responded to 1,515 incidents per code enforcement officer because we only have 2. For our police officers, they responded to 429 incidents per officer. So our code enforcement officers are responding to a great deal of need in comparison to our police officers, and I don't want to discount the work that our police officers do in any way, but I just want to highlight the amount of work that our code enforcement officers are putting in. And so I just, again, would encourage us as a group to think about adding an additional code enforcement officer in our discussions for the future.
Okay, anybody else? John?
So you stated on here that you had $447,000 have been billed since 2019. Do we have an amount that has actually been paid? And can you explain why it takes so long to get that money for what has been filed?
Well, so historically in code enforcement is the code enforcement division doing the citing or the issuing of the fines. There is a healthy separation of issuing the fines versus following the money. There's a separation just to eliminate any confusion or, somebody making accusations being heavy-handed. So typically we just do the citations and we pass those off for the finance. I don't have any numbers from the finance department of what's been covered.
I assume that you didn't.
I can add some context to it. I don't have actual numbers because this was the first number for me, but I would imagine that the collection rate isn't as good as we want it to be, especially because 2019 through 2023 were COVID years and there were no aggressive collections. That's part of it. Atwater has historically run a very high turnover in the finance department, and that's part of it. The collection program does not take full traction and move forward the way it should. So we're trying to make some progress in that by having external debt collection come forward. But even then, you're always going to have uncollectible accounts. You're going to have bad debt that isn't going to be collected. And a lot of times code enforcement is unfortunately the bad debt. People don't have the means to pay for it. And so hopefully Data Ticket will help put a dent in that uncollected revenue. There's still going to be some progress to be made. But then essentially you won't have 100% cost recovery.
Right, I understand that. It's really difficult to get. It's really difficult to get those individuals to pay their fines.
There's definitely some steps that we can do to help improve it, for sure.
And I appreciate that you're going to a collector to do that. And I also, Daniel, really want to appreciate, Councilperson Rochester said, you're always willing to take calls, and we greatly appreciate that. And you're always following up on those calls, and greatly appreciate that. And I really appreciate your work that was done to clean up the Fifth and Grove place. That was just a monster headache. And I really appreciate the individuals who purchased that house, and I was getting ready to flip it. I really appreciate excuse me, appreciate everything you do.
Yep, well, thank you, I appreciate it.
Brian, did you have something?
But no, just so with the data ticket and everything going forward and how we're gonna, take care of some of these violations, what would be the progress with data ticket and then going forward to put like a lien on someone's house?
So the Data Ticket package that we purchased, my understanding is Data Ticket has more resources. Being a third party, they just have more resources to recover the funds as far as pursuing the overdue balances. I mean, that's what they do. Is they're a collection hub for municipalities all throughout the state, so they have a lot of knowledge in it, and I just think they have more tools to recover that money.
Okay.
And it eases up a lot of paperwork, invoices and whatnot going over to finance. They have a million things going on, so it just
So it's gonna take a lot of the burden off the city.
it's going to take, in my opinion, a substantial just burden having to process the invoices and do all that. Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
And I have reached out to Data Ticket just to try to get a historical estimate of what cities have historically seen in the past once they use the service, and I'm just waiting to hear back from them. So nothing to hold them to, but just a historical estimate of what they've seen before prior.
Okay, good, thank you. Is there any public comment on this?
Yeah, you had mentioned about the yard sales on the weekends, that type of thing. If we don't have somebody already on the weekends, we need to. I get it that people are hurting. There's, people trying to feed their families and put gas in their cars and everything, so a yard sale is a way to get some temporary revenue generated for all that. But my observation that I've seen, and it's happened over I don't know how many years. If you go down Winton Way on the weekend, and there's one particular house that's near Juniper, and that is not a yard sale. Not when you got 5 lawnmowers out there or whatever. I mean, the whole front yard. There was even a panel truck out there where I believe that panel truck brought in stuff, piled it up out there, and they set up. It's a business. It's not a yard sale. It's not somebody trying to get a couple of bucks to put in their gas tank or feed their family. It's that type of stuff right there. And there, I just noticed them this last weekend or the weekend before? Same thing out there. And it's been going on for years. We need to have some attention to that. And if you don't have anybody on the weekend in council, we need to find money for these guys out of Measure B or something and get a second or a third guy to get out there on the weekends and take care of an obvious business. It is an obvious business out there. It's not your typical yard sale. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Next.
Good evening. I want to applaud Daniel for all the hard work that he puts in. It's unfortunate that I have to deal with him quite a bit, but I am fortunate to have him, and I think Atwater is as well. So I did want to say that. One other thing I want to say is almost $500,000. I think we need to consider figuring out how we can continue those billables. I'm going to say that again. It's $500,000 almost. And we're just going to like nonchalantly act like we're not going to go after that money. People have jobs, attach their wages. People have vehicles, put a lien on it. They do it to us when we don't make our payments. I don't understand why the city can't go after that money, given it would be nice to have a little extra money, and $500,000 is a lot of extra money.
All right, thank you. I don't think anybody up here said that we weren't going to go after it. But, anyway, okay. So, did you have some?
Yeah, just, I did click my button. So, if I may, Mayor, it sounds like there's some interest in adding a code enforcement officer, and I'd like to propose that we do that at the mid-year budget when that comes up around February, March.
Only if it doesn't add to the structural deficit.
Okay, we'll look for a way.
Find a way to do
And
it.
if you have any suggestions on that,
I heard a
I do, and we have a
suggestion.
meeting coming up in a couple weeks now, Zoom meeting.
I heard a suggestion that we use Measure B money.
We can look into that, but I heard most of that's spent for the next couple of years. But otherwise, we'll work on something.
Okay, next item. Comments from the public.
At this time, any person may comment on any item which is not on the agenda. You may state your name and address for the record. However, it is not required. Action will not be taken on an item that is not on the agenda. If it requires action, it will be referred to staff and are placed on a future agenda. Please limit comments to a maximum of 3 minutes.
Under the Brown Act, members of the public must address the city council as the legislative body of the city, not to other members of the public or staff. I am now opening public comment. Do we have any speaker cards?
Mayor, I do not have any speaker cards.
Okay. If there are any members of the public who'd like to speak, please come to the podium now.
Good evening again, council. Atwater Feed has 2 years ago, it's been a long road for the family. We are almost to permit after a couple years. I'm here tonight to let the city and you know that the Atwater Feed is now going to become a Atwater Feed and Supply, and is also going to have True Value hardware. They partnered with True Value. So this will be the first time in 15 years to 20 years that Atwater is actually going to have a hardware store. So it's very fortunate for our town. And we really look forward to it. The Fraguglia family is excited about it. And we wanted to share it with everybody tonight, let the community know that we have some good things coming on that corridor. And we look forward to finally getting that project going.
Great, thank you for that. Next.
So this last week, there was quite a bit of discussion and action that was taken at the Board of Supervisors meeting for this contract denial for Riggs Ambulance. As you all know, and you've probably heard, Riggs has been in business here almost 80 years. And the thing of it is that the thrust of the whole thing was over response times. Wasn't over, quality of care, wasn't over, any of that sort of thing. It was all over response times. So they pushed out Riggs to go and put in AMR, and all they did was treat the symptoms. They didn't treat the disease. I haven't heard one word come out of the Board of Supervisors or anybody else that made any sense to take and do a one-for-one swap and wind up with the same situation. The reason that you're getting these long response times is because you've got a huge area. Merced County is not small. We're covering from Snelling all the way to Bannis, all the way from La Grande, all the way out to Delhi and beyond. this is ridiculous. So to think you're going to go from rigs to AMR and poof, it's all going to go away. It's not. I work for rigs. I know that the response times were a big deal back then. The thing of it is this, and here's where you guys all come in. Our alleged District 3 supervisor asked the question about stationing an ambulance in Atwater to the AMR representative, and his response was basically, well, we're going to, examine that and see if we can figure it out. And with that's where the discussion ended. It should have been insisted an ambulance be stationed in Atwater, and the reason being is, it doesn't just service Atwater, it services Winton, it services Livingston, and beyond, and all those places out in the country. So to sit there and cavalierly say that we're just going to examine it is ridiculous. It needs to be out here. You guys need to be part of that discussion. And you need to really press for that right there, because it's not going to go away, with, doing a small shift. And, the thing of it was also, they should have just put out an RFP for a second service and put a couple extra ambulances out here, and that would have really greatly improved it. But, they didn't do that, and here we are right now, and I don't know where it's all going to end, but they didn't solve a thing, not a thing.
Okay, anybody else?
Good evening, Mayor, council members, Chris and team here in Atwater. Nathan Alonzo, your local government affairs representative for Pacific Gas and Electric. Wanted to come by tonight to, one, just drop in, but two, to ask to come later on, maybe during the fourth quarter, to give a more substantive update on some of the things that Pacific Gas and Electric is doing here in Atwater. Over the course of the last year and a half, we have spoken quite a bit based off of some of the gas work that we've done in downtown. We are also doing some other expansion projects and other infrastructure projects that have affected your residents and will continue to do so in the time ahead. Would also love to come and talk about everybody's favorite subject, rates. We'll talk about rates, what we're doing to lower the rates, the fact that we have lowered the rates, and some of the other things that have happened as the legislature closed out for the year just a couple of weeks ago, and then some of the other items that we have in front of the Public Utilities Commission. Again, I really appreciate the collaborative relationship that I've had with so many of you over the years, with Brian for, oh my God, I was a thin man once upon a time when I met Brian when he was first running, with Mayor Nelson, with wonderful new city manager Chris, and with others here. Appreciate the opportunity to get to serve this community and to continue collaborating with all of you. And look forward to coming back later on during the fourth quarter to give a bigger update.
Sounds good. Appreciate you having you come back. City manager will make those arrangements. Cool. Anybody else? Okay, I'm closing public comment. Go to the council reports. We'll start with John.
Well, I'd like to welcome our two new officers. Look forward to your service for the community. Thank you for the finance team for an awesome job you did on the audit. And going forward, we'd like to see that done in a much faster fashion. And then that's all I have.
Okay, Danny.
We'd like to also welcome our officers, as well as our, was it only one new finance person or two? Yes, Randy. And welcome aboard to our team as well. That's it.
Brian?
The same thing, I'd like to echo what they said, and I would also like to pivot on Mr. Alonzo there. Had a good relationship with him for probably 10 years, and if we can figure out anything with these PG&E rates, giving him time, I think it's going to be good for the city.
Yep. Kalisa?
I also would like to welcome all the new staff members. I was particularly excited to hear that one of our new police officers actually came from Public Works. It's exciting to see individuals moving up within the organization, the whole city itself. So congratulations to everyone for that. And a few things that I've done over the past couple weeks. I was able to sit down with Chief Carvalho, with our mayor, to get a better understanding of the weed abatement program, which we've had some significant discussion about for the past couple of council meetings. So thank you very much for your time, Chief Carvalho, and thank you for the detailed explanation that you provided us. I appreciate that very much. Also attended a tour of the wastewater treatment plant, which was very interesting, with our city manager, and got a better understanding of how that whole situation works. The Old Town Farmers Market and Crafters Market was on October 2nd. The next one and the final one will be on October 16th. So we've had a pretty good run. Hope to see all of you at the final vendor and crafters market for Old Town Atwater. They're going to have a sweet potato dessert contest. I've decided not to enter that because I don't want to beat everyone. So anyway, maybe I'll be a judge, hopefully. I was also able to sit down with Chief Randall, who so graciously went over the public safety master plan from the fire perspective, and I really appreciate your time, Chief Randall, with taking time to help explain some of the things that I didn't understand in the public safety master plan, so thank you very much. And then finally, a big thank you to Atwater High School for inviting me to be a judge at their homecoming parade last Friday. That was super exciting. I've never been able to do that before, and I had a great time. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll echo all that too, but I will add on that I was also at the parade. Khalees and I were judges there. That was always a fun afternoon. And I will also be a judge at the farmers market too. I've been asked to be I missed the one on the peach pie thing. I was really bummed about that. So now I get the sweet potato dessert. So that'll be all right.
I think my invitation was lost in the mail. Maybe that's what it was.
I don't know. I don't run that thing, so I don't know. But I do want to thank everybody that works in here, the leadership here. We have good employees, but we have some good department heads too. That really makes things work, so I want to appreciate that. And of course, Daniel got a lot of accolades because he's kind of like right on the front lines, tip of the spear on this kind of stuff. So thank you for that too. So with that, we're going to have an update from the city manager.
Yes, thank you. A few items here. Let me start with some information that was asked about earlier in the meeting. We were talking about the deficit that's in the sewer fund. The one-time expenses I just looked up in the budget include $6 million for Lower Schaefer drainage project, nearly $2 million for the Castle Sewer Interceptor, about $250,000 for Canal Creek Crossing, and then $150,000 for the street sweeper, which actually tonight under the consent calendar was, there was a budget amendment to put that into the drainage maintenance districts instead. So those are some of the one-time expenses, and then the revenue, or not the revenue, but the fund balance at the start of our current fiscal year, according to the budget, is nearly $13 million in the wastewater enterprise fund. So there's money in the fund, and the plan is to use that for some of those one-time expenses. And then just a few, if there's any questions, I can take that. Okay. A few updates. Movie in the Park will be at the Bloss House outside on the grounds. So please join us on Friday, October 17th at sunset for the showing of Hocus Pocus. Bring your blankets and lawn chairs for a fun, family-friendly night under the stars. And then we have the City of Atwater Fall Cleanup. It's happening Saturday, October 18th from 7 a.m. to noon. It's at 2877 Atwater Boulevard. It's the same location as last year. This is a great opportunity for residents to dispose of unwanted household items and help keep Atwater clean. And then, we're gonna have some rain, so if you wanna pick up a sandbag, the sandbag station is available. It's a self-serve sandbag station. It's set up at the corner of Atwater Boulevard and First Street. And sandbags are provided, and just bring your own shovel. And lastly, I want to comment on the downtown sidewalk project that's going on right now. It's 75% done. The last part is First Street. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Chris. Okay, so with that, we are almost done here. We are going to go into closed session. We have conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation. Yep, public comment. Are there any members of the public who would like to speak regarding closed session item? Please come to the podium now. Seeing nobody come forward, I'm closing the public comment. Thank you all for attending.